How much of your life have you already given away to fear? The words you never said, the rooms you avoided, the people you allowed to intimidate you, the decisions you delayed because something might go wrong. Fear does not always destroy your life loudly. Sometimes it quietly convinces you to live smaller than you were meant to. Today, that ends. You are going to learn how to face anyone, handle anything, and stop letting fear decide your life. Chapter 1. Stop letting people intimidate you. The first thing you must understand is that intimidation is rarely about the other person being more powerful than you. Most of the time, it begins inside your own mind. You see someone who looks confident, successful, aggressive, wealthy, intelligent, or important, and before they even speak, you silently place them above you. You start measuring your words, doubting yourself, avoiding eye contact, and trying not to make a mistake. The real problem is not their presence, it is the position you gave them in your mind. No person deserves that much control over your confidence. Every person you admire, fear, or feel nervous around has insecurities, weaknesses, private struggles, and moments of doubt. They are human, just like you. Respect people, but never worship their confidence. Listen to them, but do not surrender your voice. When someone speaks strongly, you do not have to become smaller. When someone disagrees with you, you do not have to panic. When someone tries to dominate the room, you do not have to compete with them either. Stay calm, speak clearly, and remember your value. The moment you stop asking yourself, "What do they think of me?" and start asking, "Do I respect how I am showing up right now?" your power begins to return. Intimidation dies when you stop mentally kneeling before people. Stand in your own place, trust your own voice, and never give another human being permission to make you feel inferior. Chapter 2. Face pressure without losing your power. Pressure does not reveal how weak you are. It reveals how well you can control yourself when life refuses to cooperate. Anyone can appear confident when everything is easy, people are supportive, and nothing important is at risk. Your real strength appears when someone challenges you, a problem arrives without warning, or a situation forces you to make a decision before you feel ready. In those moments, your first instinct may be to panic, defend yourself, react emotionally, or imagine the worst possible outcome. But pressure becomes dangerous only when you allow it to control the way you think. Your power is not in controlling everything around you. Your power is in refusing to let everything around you control you. When tension rises, slow yourself down instead of speeding yourself up. Do not answer every accusation immediately. Do not make desperate decisions just because you feel uncomfortable. And do not confuse urgency with importance. A calm mind can see options that a frightened mind completely misses. Give yourself enough space to think clearly, understand what is actually happening, and choose your next move instead of simply reacting. The strongest person in a difficult situation is often not the loudest person in the room. It is the person who can remain steady while everyone else loses control. Pressure may test you, but it does not have the authority to decide who you become. Learn to stand inside uncomfortable moments without abandoning yourself. When life becomes intense, remind yourself, "I do not need to panic to solve this. I can think, adapt, respond, and move forward." That is how pressure stops becoming your enemy and starts becoming the place where your strength is built. Chapter 3. Train your mind to stay calm in any situation. Calmness is not something you are born with. It is something you train. Most people lose control because they allow the first emotion to become the final decision. Someone disrespects them, and they react. Something goes wrong, and they panic. An unexpected problem appears, and their mind immediately creates 10 more problems that do not even exist yet. This is how fear takes control. The situation may be difficult, but your uncontrolled reaction often makes it twice as heavy. Train yourself to create a small space between what happens and what you do next. When tension rises, Do not immediately speak, argue, explain, or defend yourself. Take a moment to understand what is actually happening. Ask yourself, what response will help me most 5 minutes from now? That question can save you from decisions made by anger, fear, or pride. A calm mind sees details that panic ignores. It notices opportunities, recognizes manipulation, and chooses the right moment to speak or remain silent. You do not need every situation to become peaceful before you can feel powerful. You need to become the person who can carry peace into difficult situations. The more often you practice staying composed under pressure, the less control chaos has over you. Eventually, people will notice that you are difficult to provoke, difficult to confuse, and difficult to intimidate. That is real strength. Not having a life without problems, but having a mind that refuses to fall apart when problems arrive. Chapter 4. Break the habit of fearing what might happen. One of the most exhausting forms of fear is not fear of what is happening right now, but fear of what might happen next. Your mind begins predicting rejection before anyone rejects you, failure before you even begin, embarrassment before you enter the room, and disaster before there is any real sign of danger. Nothing has happened yet, but your body reacts as if the worst has already arrived. You lose sleep over conversations that have not taken place, avoid opportunities because of outcomes that may never happen, and spend your energy fighting imaginary battles. This is how fear quietly steals your life. It does not always stop you with a real problem. Sometimes it stops you with a possibility. The mind naturally tries to protect you by looking ahead, but when this habit becomes uncontrolled, preparation turns into anxiety. You begin treating every uncertain situation like a threat. What if they judge me? What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if something goes wrong? The questions continue because fear is never satisfied with one answer. Even when you solve one imagined problem, your mind creates another. The goal is not to guarantee that nothing difficult will happen. No one can make that promise. The goal is to stop requiring certainty before you allow yourself to live. Start separating facts from predictions. A fact is something that is happening now. A prediction is something your mind believes might happen later. If you have an important meeting tomorrow, the fact is that you have a meeting. The prediction is that you will embarrass yourself, forget what to say, and lose the opportunity. If someone has not replied to you, the fact is that they have not replied yet. The prediction is that they are angry, losing interest, or planning to leave. This distinction sounds simple, but it changes everything. When you learn to recognize predictions as predictions, you stop automatically treating them as reality. Fear also becomes stronger when you believe that one bad outcome would destroy you. You imagine failure as the end, instead of an event you could recover from. But look at your own life. You have already survived disappointment, uncertainty, mistakes, awkward moments, setbacks, and days you once thought would be unbearable. You handled situations you did not know how to handle until they arrived. This is the confidence you need to build. Not the confidence that nothing will go wrong, but the confidence that if something does go wrong, you will respond. Replace "what if something terrible happens" with a stronger question. If that happens, what will I do? The first question creates helplessness. The second creates a plan. If you are rejected, you will continue. If a plan fails, you will adjust it. If someone leaves, you will rebuild your life without them. If you make a mistake, you will learn from it. If a difficult conversation happens, you will deal with it when it happens. Suddenly, the future is no longer a giant, unknown monster. It becomes a series of situations that can be handled one decision at a time. You must also understand that avoiding uncertainty does not make you safe. It makes your world smaller. Every meaningful part of life contains uncertainty. Starting something new is uncertain. Loving someone is uncertain. Speaking your mind is uncertain. Changing careers is uncertain. Walking into a room where nobody knows you is uncertain. Becoming stronger is uncertain. If you wait until fear disappears completely, you may wait forever. Courage begins when you accept that uncertainty is part of movement. Stop rehearsing disasters in your imagination. Your mind becomes good at whatever you repeatedly practice. If you spend hours imagining yourself failing, freezing, losing, or being humiliated, you are training yourself to expect defeat. Give your mind a different assignment. Imagine yourself staying calm when something unexpected happens. Imagine yourself recovering after a mistake. Imagine yourself hearing no and continuing anyway. Imagine yourself facing a difficult situation without abandoning your dignity. You are not pretending that life will always go perfectly. You are training your brain to remember that you have options. There will be moments when fear still appears, and that does not mean you have failed. The old habit may tell you to cancel, hide, delay, overthink, or wait until you feel certain. Do not argue with fear for hours. Acknowledge it and move. Take the next reasonable action while fear is still talking. Make the call, enter the room, send the application, start the work. Say what needs to be said. Every time you act without demanding complete certainty, you teach your mind a new lesson. I can move even when I do not know exactly what will happen. Your future does not need to be perfectly predictable for you to be powerful. You only need to trust that you can meet the future when it arrives. Most of what you fear will never happen exactly the way you imagine it, and if something difficult does happen, worrying about it months in advance will not make you stronger. What makes you stronger is being present enough to handle what is real. Do not sacrifice today's peace to tomorrow's imagination. Stop allowing possibilities to frighten you more than reality deserves. Let tomorrow bring its own challenges. Your responsibility is to become strong enough today that when life changes, you do not collapse with it. Fear may show you everything that could go wrong, but courage reminds you of something far more important. Whatever happens next, you will not face it as the same person you were yesterday. You will think, adapt, recover, and keep moving. Chapter 5. Become too strong to be controlled by fear. Fear becomes powerful when you start obeying it. It tells you not to speak, so you stay silent. It tells you not to try, so you delay. It tells you that someone is too important to challenge, so you shrink around them. It tells you that failure would be unbearable, so you never begin. Little by little, fear stops being an emotion and starts becoming an authority. That is the moment you must change your relationship with it. Your goal is not to become a person who never feels fear. Your goal is to become someone who can feel fear without surrendering control. Strong people still experience uncertainty. They still feel nervous before important decisions, uncomfortable in unfamiliar rooms, and cautious when something valuable is at risk. The difference is that they do not automatically treat fear as a command. They listen to what it is saying, decide whether the warning is useful, and then choose their own response. This is where real courage begins. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is your ability to remain in charge while fear is present. Many people spend their lives trying to create conditions where they will never feel uncomfortable again. They avoid difficult conversations, unfamiliar people, challenging opportunities, and anything that could expose them to criticism. It feels safe for a while, but every avoidance makes fear stronger. Your mind begins learning that discomfort means danger, and that escaping is the only way to survive it. Eventually, ordinary situations start feeling threatening because you have trained yourself to run before discovering what you can actually handle. The way out is not to wait for confidence. The way out is to build confidence through action. When something makes you nervous but is safe and necessary, move toward it in manageable steps. Speak when you would normally remain quiet. Ask the question you are afraid might sound foolish. Walk into the room without rehearsing every possible mistake. Have the conversation you keep postponing. Make the decision that fear keeps demanding you delay. Every time you act while feeling uncomfortable, you collect evidence that fear does not control you. This evidence matters because your mind believes what your behavior repeatedly proves. You can tell yourself 1,000 times that you are strong, but if you constantly escape whenever pressure appears, another message becomes louder. I cannot handle this. Change the evidence. Show yourself that you can remain present when tension rises. Show yourself that embarrassment is survivable, rejection is survivable, disagreement is survivable, and uncertainty is survivable. The more proof you collect, the less convincing fear becomes. You must also stop confusing fear with truth. Fear speaks with confidence, but confidence does not make it accurate. It may tell you, everyone will judge you, when most people are too focused on themselves to think about you for very long. It may tell you, if you fail once, everything is over, when failure could actually reveal what needs to change. It may tell you, you cannot handle this person, even though the only power that person has is the power you have mentally given them. Fear exaggerates consequences because its job is to keep you cautious. Your job is to examine the evidence before believing the story. When fear gives you a prediction, question it. Ask, what do I actually know? Then ask, what am I only imagining? These two questions can separate reality from panic. If you know that a problem exists, deal with the problem. If you are only imagining 10 disasters that might follow it, stop fighting events that have not happened. Strength grows when your attention returns to what you can do now. Another way fear controls people is through the desperate need for approval. If you are terrified of disappointing others, you become easy to manipulate. Someone only needs to withdraw affection, become angry, criticize you, or make you feel guilty, and suddenly you abandon your own judgment. You say yes when you want to say no. You tolerate behavior you know is wrong. You explain yourself repeatedly because you cannot stand the thought of being misunderstood. This is not peace. It is emotional dependence disguised as kindness. You cannot become mentally strong while giving everyone else the power to decide whether you are allowed to feel good about yourself. Listen to advice, admit when you are wrong, and respect people who deserve your respect, but do not hand over your identity. Some people will misunderstand you even when your intentions are good. Some will dislike your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. Some will call you selfish when you stop sacrificing yourself for their comfort. You cannot control every opinion. You can control whether those opinions control you. There is enormous freedom in learning to survive disapproval. Imagine how differently you would live if you knew you could handle someone being disappointed in you. Imagine how much clearer your decisions would become if you did not need everyone to agree with them. You would become more deliberate, more honest, and much harder to intimidate. You would stop adjusting your entire personality according to who entered the room. Fear also loses power when you stop demanding perfection from yourself. Perfectionism often looks like high standards, but underneath it there is frequently a simple fear. If I make a mistake, people will think less of me, so you prepare endlessly, overthink simple decisions, avoid taking risks, and delay until conditions feel perfect. But perfection is an impossible form of protection. Even when you perform well, there will always be another possibility to worry about. Give yourself permission to be capable without being flawless. You can speak clearly and still stumble over a sentence. You can make a smart decision and still discover later that another option might have been better. You can enter a difficult situation confidently and still feel nervous inside. Strength does not require perfect performance. It requires the ability to remain standing when performance is imperfect. You should also become careful with the language you use inside your own mind. If every challenge becomes terrible, every uncomfortable conversation becomes a disaster, and every mistake becomes humiliating, your nervous system begins reacting to ordinary difficulty as if you are facing catastrophe. Use language that keeps events in their proper size. Instead of saying, "I cannot handle this," tell yourself, "This is difficult, but I can take the next step." Instead of saying, "Everything is going wrong," say, One thing has gone wrong, and I will deal with it. Accurate language creates a more accurate emotional response. Mental strength grows through these small internal corrections. You stop exaggerating, you stop predicting, you stop mentally surrendering before the situation has even tested you. Instead of asking, "How do I make sure nothing bad happens?" you ask, "How do I become capable of responding if it does?" That is a powerful shift, because one question depends on controlling life, while the other depends on developing yourself. There will always be things outside your control. Someone may reject you despite your best effort. A plan may collapse. A person you trusted may disappoint you. An opportunity may disappear. Life does not become fearless because you finally gain control over everything. It becomes less frightening when you discover that losing control of an outcome does not mean losing control of yourself. This is why resilience is more valuable than certainty. Certainty says, "I need to know everything will work out." Resilience says, "Whatever happens, I will respond." Certainty is fragile because life cannot promise it. Resilience travels with you everywhere. You can lose a plan and still have resilience. You can lose someone's approval and still have resilience. You can experience disappointment and still have resilience. Once you begin trusting your ability to recover, fear has fewer threats left to use against you. Do not wait until a crisis arrives to practice this mindset. Build it in ordinary moments. When someone disagrees with you, notice the urge to become defensive and remain calm instead. When you make a small mistake, resist the temptation to attack yourself. Correct it and continue. When you feel nervous before doing something important, do not interpret the nervousness as a reason to retreat. Let it exist while you move forward. These ordinary moments are training grounds for extraordinary pressure. The strongest version of you will not be created in a life where nothing challenges you. That version is built each time you discover that you can experience discomfort without becoming controlled by it. You become stronger when you stay composed during disagreement, when you recover after rejection, when you continue after embarrassment, and when you make decisions even without perfect certainty. Eventually, fear begins to sound different. It may still say, "What if you fail?" But now you have an answer. "Then I learn." It may ask, "What if they reject you?" And you respond, "Then I continue without them." It may warn, "What if the situation becomes difficult?" And you answer, "Then I become more capable while handling it." Fear loses authority when every threat it makes is met with the belief that you can respond. That is the strength you are building. Not recklessness, not aggression, and not pretending that nothing affects you. You are building self-command. You are becoming someone who can feel emotion without becoming a prisoner of emotion. Someone who can hear fear without obeying it, and someone who can face uncertainty without surrendering their future to an imagined disaster. Remember this whenever fear tries to make your world smaller. You do not need to defeat every possible problem today. You only need to refuse to give fear the right to decide your next move. Take ownership of that decision again and again until courage becomes your normal response. Fear may enter your mind, but it does not belong in the driver's seat. Let it speak if it must, then choose your direction yourself. Become so grounded in your own ability to think, adapt, recover, and continue that fear can no longer control where you go, what you say, whom you face, or what kind of life you are willing to build. That is when fear stops being your master and becomes what it was always supposed to be, a feeling you can experience without surrendering your power. Chapter 6. Handle problems without panic, doubt, or an escape. Problems become much heavier when your mind reacts before it understands what is actually happening. A difficult message arrives. Something goes wrong at work. Money becomes tight. A relationship changes. A plan collapses. Or someone suddenly challenges you. In that first moment, your mind may rush toward the worst possible conclusion. You imagine consequences that have not happened, question your ability to cope, and feel an immediate urge to escape. But this is exactly where your strength must begin. A problem does not automatically become a crisis. Very often, panic is what turns one difficult situation into 10 imaginary ones. The first rule is simple. Do not let the first emotion make the first decision. When something goes wrong, your nervous system may react before your reasoning catches up. You may feel anger, fear, embarrassment, confusion, or helplessness. That reaction is human, but it should not become your strategy. Give yourself enough time to understand the problem before you start fighting it. Ask what has actually happened, what needs attention now, and what can wait. This prevents fear from mixing facts with imagination. Most people lose power because they try to solve the entire future at once. One problem appears today, and within minutes their mind is already living 3 months ahead. They ask what this will mean for everything, whether it will ruin their plans, how people will react, and what happens if the situation becomes worse. The mind keeps adding weight until a manageable problem begins to feel impossible. Strong thinking does the opposite. It reduces the problem to the next useful action. Instead of asking, "How am I going to fix everything?" ask, "What is the next thing I can do that improves this situation?" One clear step immediately gives you back some control. This is why calm people often solve problems better than intelligent people who panic. Intelligence is difficult to use when fear is flooding your attention. Panic narrows your thinking. It makes you impatient, impulsive, and desperate for immediate relief. A calm mind creates distance between the problem and the reaction. In that distance, better choices become visible. You may realize that the situation is smaller than it appeared, that you need more information, that you have more options than you thought, or that the best decision is not to react yet. You must learn the difference between a problem and your story about the problem. Suppose someone criticizes your work. The problem may simply be that something needs improvement. The story might become, "They think I am useless, I am going to fail, everyone will lose respect for me." Suppose a person you care about becomes distant. The fact may be that their behavior has changed. The story may become, "They are definitely leaving. I will end up alone. I always lose people." Stories multiply pain because they turn one uncertain event into an entire identity. Return to facts before deciding what anything means. Doubt works in a similar way. When pressure appears, you may suddenly forget everything you already know about yourself. One setback makes you question years of progress. One mistake makes you question your intelligence. One rejection makes you question your worth. This is a dangerous habit because it allows temporary events to redefine you. A difficult moment can expose something you need to improve without proving that you are incapable. You are allowed to have a problem without becoming the problem. When doubt begins speaking, do not ask whether you feel confident. Ask what evidence you have. Have you handled difficult situations before? Have you recovered from disappointment? Have you learnt skills you once thought were difficult? Have you survived days you believed would break you? Your past contains evidence that your current fear conveniently forgets. Confidence does not always arrive before action. Sometimes confidence returns after you remind yourself of what you have already survived, and then take the next step. There is also a powerful reason people escape from problems. Avoidance gives immediate relief. You postpone the difficult conversation and feel better for an hour. You ignore the bill, avoid checking the account, or refuse to open the message, and your anxiety temporarily drops. You tell yourself you will handle it later. But later arrives with the original problem plus the consequences of delay. Avoidance feels like peace because you stop looking at the problem, but the problem does not stop existing. Every time you escape something you need to face, you teach your mind that the situation was too powerful for you. Every time you face it, even imperfectly, you teach yourself the opposite. That is why dealing with small problems quickly matters. Answer the necessary message, make the appointment, ask the uncomfortable question, admit the mistake, review the numbers, start the repair. The goal is not to enjoy difficult tasks. The goal is to stop letting dread grow around things that could be handled. You do not need to attack every problem aggressively either. Sometimes strength means patience. People often make bad decisions because uncertainty makes them uncomfortable, and they want an answer immediately. They accept poor offers, end relationships impulsively, argue before hearing the full story, or make financial decisions simply because waiting feels unbearable. Learn to tolerate not knowing everything yet. A problem does not always require an instant solution. Sometimes the most powerful move is gathering information, watching carefully, and refusing to create another problem through impatience. When another person is involved, protect yourself from emotional contagion. Someone else's panic does not have to become your panic. Their anger does not require your anger. Their urgency does not automatically become your emergency. Listen carefully and decide for yourself how serious the situation actually is. Some people communicate every inconvenience as if the world is ending. If you absorb their emotional intensity, your judgment disappears. Stay respectful, but maintain your own internal pace. This is especially important when someone tries to pressure you into making a decision. They may speak quickly, threaten consequences, question your courage, or make you feel guilty for needing time. Do not confuse pressure with authority. Unless there is a true emergency, you are allowed to think. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to say, "I need to consider this." People who benefit from your impulsive decisions may dislike your calmness, because calmness makes manipulation harder. Handling problems well also requires accepting responsibility without attacking yourself. When you make a mistake, the weakest response is denial. The second weakest response is self-destruction. Neither helps. If you caused the problem, admit what happened clearly, correct what you can, learn what needs to change, and move forward. Responsibility is powerful because it puts you back in contact with what you can control. Shame keeps you staring at who you were. Responsibility asks what you will do next. Do not waste energy protecting your ego when the problem needs your attention. Sometimes you were wrong. Sometimes you misjudged someone, forgot something important, trusted the wrong information, reacted too quickly, or avoided something for too long. Your strength is not measured by never making mistakes. It is measured by how quickly you can stop defending the mistake and start repairing its consequences. At other times, the problem will not be your fault at all. Life can place you in situations you did not choose. Someone else's decision may affect you. An unexpected expense may arrive. A company may change direction. A person may betray an agreement. A health or family issue may interrupt your plans. When this happens, do not waste all your strength arguing with the fact that it should not have happened. You can dislike reality without denying it. The faster you accept what is true, the sooner you can decide what to do with it. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means refusing to spend all your energy fighting yesterday. If the situation has changed, your strategy may need to change with it. Strong people are not strong because their plans never fail. They are strong because they can release a failed plan without releasing themselves. They adapt without turning every change into a personal defeat. One of the most useful questions in a difficult moment is, what is still under my control? Maybe you cannot control another person's behavior, but you can control your response. You may not control the outcome of an application, but you control your preparation and whether you continue applying. You may not control what happened yesterday, but you control what you do with today. Problems feel enormous when your attention remains fixed on everything you cannot change. Shift your focus toward whatever remains available to you. Even when your options are limited, there is usually something. You can ask for help, you can collect information, you can create a backup plan, you can reduce unnecessary expenses, you can apologize, you can leave, you can wait, you can learn, you can say no, you can try again, you can protect yourself, you can change your expectations. The moment you identify an action, helplessness begins losing its grip. Do not underestimate the power of breaking a problem into smaller pieces. A large problem often feels terrifying because your mind sees it as one solid wall. Break it apart. What must happen today? What needs to happen this week? What requires another person's help? What information is missing? What can be ignored for now? Suddenly the wall becomes a series of steps. You do not need enough strength for the entire journey in one moment. You need enough strength for the next part. This principle works in emotional problems as well. If your heart has been broken, you do not need to know when you will completely recover. You need to get through today without making the pain worse. If someone has betrayed you, you do not need to decide your entire future with them in the first hour. You need to understand what happened and protect your immediate boundaries. If you feel lost in life, you do not need a perfect 10-year plan tonight. You need one honest decision that moves you in a healthier direction. Panic demands certainty. Strength works with what is available. Another habit you must abandon is repeatedly asking, "Why is this happening to me?" There may be times when understanding why matters, but the question can also trap you. If you ask it endlessly, you remain emotionally attached to the unfairness of the situation. A more useful question is, what does this require from me now? Maybe it requires patience, maybe courage, maybe a difficult conversation, maybe letting go, maybe learning something you avoided learning, maybe recognizing that a person or situation is no longer good for you. Problems often reveal where you are dependent, unprepared, or afraid. That does not make problems enjoyable, but it can make them useful. A financial problem may reveal that you need better control of your spending. A conflict may expose poor boundaries. Repeated disappointment may reveal that you are ignoring obvious patterns. A failure may show that your strategy needs improvement. When you stop seeing every difficulty as an attack, you can start extracting information from it. This is how adversity becomes training. You begin asking, what skill is this situation forcing me to develop? A difficult person may teach you boundaries. Uncertainty may teach you patience. Rejection may teach you persistence. Responsibility may teach you discipline. Loss may teach you how much of your identity you placed in something outside yourself. Not every painful event has a beautiful meaning, but nearly every difficult experience can teach you something about the way you respond. You should also remember that not every problem deserves equal emotional energy. Some things need action, some need acceptance, some need distance, some need to be ignored completely. Maturity is knowing the difference. If someone dislikes you, that may not be a problem you need to solve. If a stranger misunderstands you, you may not need to correct them. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, the solution may not be another explanation. Sometimes the solution is less access. Your peace becomes stronger when you stop turning every disturbance into a mission. Ask whether the problem truly belongs to you. People may try to hand you their anger, expectations, conflicts, and responsibilities. You can care about someone without carrying everything they refuse to handle themselves. Learn to say, "This is not mine to solve." That sentence can protect enormous amounts of energy. When a real problem does belong to you, face it fully. Do not give it half your attention while spending the other half imagining escape. There is something deeply calming about finally deciding, "I am going to deal with this." The situation may still be difficult, but inner conflict begins to disappear. You stop negotiating with reality and start participating in your own solution. You may still feel afraid while doing this. That is fine. Fear does not cancel competence. Your hands can shake while you make the call. Your voice can feel uncertain while you set the boundary. Your stomach can tighten while you walk into the meeting. Courage is not a performance where you must look perfectly fearless. It is the decision to stay engaged, even when part of you wants to run. Over time, this changes the way you see yourself. You no longer think, "I hope nothing difficult happens." You begin thinking, If something happens, I will handle it. That sentence contains an entirely different way of living. You stop organizing your life around avoiding discomfort. You become willing to pursue opportunities because failure no longer feels like destruction. You become more honest because disagreement no longer terrifies you. You make clearer decisions because temporary discomfort no longer controls your future. Eventually, problems stop looking like evidence that life is against you. They become situations requiring decisions. Some will be painful, some will be unfair, some will take longer to solve than you want. Some may never be solved exactly the way you hoped, but none of them require you to surrender your mind before the battle has even begun. When the next problem arrives, remember your sequence. First, breathe long enough to separate emotion from fact. Second, understand what has actually happened. Third, identify what remains under your control. Fourth, choose the next useful action. Then continue from there. Do not demand that you know every answer before taking the first step. You are not powerful because life stops testing you. You are powerful when difficulty can arrive without instantly destroying your ability to think. You are powerful when doubt speaks and you continue. You are powerful when escape looks tempting and you choose to face what matters. You are powerful when a problem becomes large but you refuse to make yourself small. That is the mindset you are building. No panic before understanding, no doubt without evidence, and no escape from what you know must be faced. Problems may interrupt your plans, challenge your confidence, and force you to change direction. But they do not get to decide who you become. Face what is real, handle what is yours, release what you cannot control, and keep moving. Chapter 7. Walk into any room without shrinking yourself. There are rooms where nothing dangerous is happening, yet the moment you enter, something inside you changes. You become more careful with your voice. You question where to stand, what to say, how much to speak, and whether people are judging you. Someone looks more successful, more confident, more educated, more attractive, more connected, or more powerful, and without realizing it, you begin reducing yourself. You speak more softly than usual. You avoid eye contact. You agree too quickly. You laugh when you do not find something funny. You hesitate to express an opinion you would normally defend. Nobody has physically pushed you into a corner, yet mentally you have already stepped backward. This is what it means to shrink yourself, and if you do it often enough, you may begin believing that certain people naturally deserve more space in the world than you do. They do not. Walking into a room with confidence does not mean believing you are better than everyone there. It means refusing to believe you are beneath them. There is a tremendous difference between arrogance and self-respect. Arrogance needs to dominate the room. Self-respect simply refuses to disappear inside it. You do not need to become louder, more aggressive, or more impressive. You only need to stop apologizing internally for your presence. Pay attention to what happens inside your mind when you enter an unfamiliar environment. Before anyone speaks to you, your brain may already be ranking people. That person looks important. That one seems powerful. Those people probably know more than I do. They are more experienced. They are more confident. I hope I do not embarrass myself. This mental ranking system is one of the fastest ways to give away your confidence. You turn ordinary human beings into judges and yourself into a contestant, trying to earn permission to belong. Break that habit. When you enter a room, remind yourself that everyone there is a complete human being, not a perfect one. The confident person has insecurities. The successful person has made mistakes. The person speaking with authority has had moments of uncertainty. The person everyone admires has experienced rejection, confusion, embarrassment, and fear. You do not need to imagine their weaknesses to feel superior. You simply need to remember their humanity so you stop exaggerating their power. Confidence begins with equality in your own mind. You may respect someone's experience without worshipping it. You may admire someone's success without turning your own life into a failure by comparison. You can learn from someone without mentally kneeling before them. The moment you see people as human, rather than larger-than-life figures, intimidation begins to lose its grip. Your body often reveals whether you believe you belong before your words ever do. When you feel intimidated, you may rush your movements, keep your shoulders tight, look toward the floor, speak too quickly, or constantly check whether people approve of what you are saying. These signals are not permanent features of your personality, they are habits, and habits can be retrained. Slow down, walk at a natural pace, instead of rushing as though you need to get out of everyone's way. Let your shoulders relax, keep your head level, look at people when they speak to you. Do not stare aggressively, but do not immediately look away because you feel uncomfortable. Give yourself permission to take up normal physical space. You do not need to become theatrical. Small changes in the way you carry yourself can send an important message back to your own nervous system. I am safe enough to remain present. Your voice matters too. Many people destroy the authority of their own words because they speak as though they are asking permission to have an opinion. They add unnecessary apologies, explanations, and nervous qualifiers. Instead of saying, "I think this could work," they say, "I could be completely wrong, and obviously you probably know more, but maybe this might possibly work." By the time the idea arrives, they have already told everyone not to take it seriously. You do not need to speak with fake certainty. You can be humble without weakening every sentence. Say what you mean clearly. If you are unsure, say you are unsure once. If you disagree, disagree respectfully. If you need more information, ask for it. If you have something valuable to contribute, contribute it without delivering an apology first. A powerful person is not someone who knows everything. A powerful person can comfortably say, "I do not know," without feeling smaller. They can ask a question without believing the question makes them foolish. They can hear a better idea without feeling attacked. Their confidence is not built on pretending to be perfect, so it does not collapse whenever they are corrected. This is especially important in rooms where you believe other people have more status than you. Status can distort your behavior if you are not careful. Titles, money, popularity, authority, education, beauty, and social influence can cause people to treat another human being as though their value has multiplied. Respect legitimate authority where it exists, but do not confuse someone's position with their worth as a human being. A person may be your boss and still be wrong. Someone may be wealthy and still make poor decisions. Someone may be famous and still be deeply insecure. Someone may speak confidently and still know less than the quietest person in the room. Your goal is not to challenge people simply to prove that you are brave. Your goal is to stop surrendering your judgment because someone looks difficult to challenge. Sometimes intimidation comes from aggressive personalities. Certain people speak over others, interrupt frequently, use sarcasm, question everything, or create tension intentionally. They may have learned that making other people uncomfortable gives them control. If you are afraid of conflict, their behavior can immediately push you into submission. You start explaining yourself too much, retreating from reasonable boundaries, or agreeing just to end the pressure. This is where calmness becomes more powerful than aggression. If someone raises their voice, you do not automatically need to raise yours. If they interrupt, you can calmly continue or say, "Let me finish." If they try to rush your decision, you can say, "I will decide after I have considered it." If they disrespect you, you can make it clear that the conversation will not continue in that tone. None of these responses require anger. In fact, the less emotionally controlled you are by their behavior, the more powerful your position becomes. People who intimidate others often expect one of two reactions, submission or explosion. Give them neither. Stay steady, speak directly, make your boundary clear. If the interaction has no value, leave it. Walking away from unnecessary conflict is not weakness. Sometimes it is the clearest demonstration that another person's behavior does not control you. Another form of shrinking happens when you desperately want to be liked. You enter a social situation and immediately start editing yourself. You search people's faces for approval. You adjust your opinions to match theirs. You hide interests you think they will find strange. You become agreeable to the point that nobody actually meets the real you. This may protect you from immediate rejection, but it creates another problem. Even when people accept you, you never feel fully accepted because you know they are responding to the version you created for them. Real confidence requires tolerating the possibility that not everyone will connect with you. Some people will not understand your personality. Some will find you too quiet, too direct, too serious, too ambitious, too independent, or simply different from what they prefer. That does not automatically mean something is wrong with you. Compatibility is not the same thing as worth. You do not have to become everyone's favorite person in order to stand confidently in a room. A useful question is not, how do I make everyone like me? Ask, how do I remain respectful without abandoning myself? That question protects both kindness and identity. You should also stop confusing social mistakes with disasters. Many people fear rooms because they are terrified of saying the wrong thing. They imagine forgetting a name, making an awkward comment, stumbling over a sentence, or not knowing how to respond. Because they demand flawless performance from themselves, normal social interaction begins to feel like an examination. Allow yourself to be human. You may occasionally say something awkward. You may mispronounce a word. You may tell a joke that does not land. You may misunderstand a question. Most people will forget these moments much faster than you will. What often makes an awkward moment worse is not the mistake itself, but the panic that follows it. You begin replaying it, explaining unnecessarily, or withdrawing completely. Recover simply. Correct yourself if necessary, and continue. The ability to recover is far more valuable than the ability to avoid every imperfect moment. This applies in professional environments as well. Imagine walking into a meeting where everyone seems more experienced than you. Fear tells you to remain invisible. It tells you that silence is safer because silence cannot be wrong. But constant silence carries a cost. If you never contribute because you are afraid of sounding imperfect, you prevent other people from seeing what you are capable of. Prepare when preparation is possible. Know your subject. Listen carefully. Then speak when you have something useful to add. You do not need to dominate the discussion. One clear, thoughtful contribution can carry more weight than 10 minutes of nervous talking. If someone questions your idea, do not automatically interpret the question as humiliation. They may simply be testing the idea. Separate yourself from what you said. Your idea can be challenged without your identity being attacked. If the criticism is valid, use it. If it is weak, respond with reasoning. If you do not know the answer, say you will find out. You become difficult to intimidate when correction no longer feels like destruction. Comparison is another force that makes people shrink. You walk into a room and instantly notice who appears ahead of you. Someone is more successful. Someone dresses better. Someone speaks more confidently. Someone has achieved what you are still trying to build. If you are not careful, their success becomes evidence against your own value. But another person's strength is not proof of your weakness. You can stand beside someone impressive without turning yourself into something unimpressive. Their progress belongs to their story. Your progress belongs to yours. Learn from people who are ahead without using them as weapons against yourself. The strongest person in the room is often not the person with the greatest achievements. It may be the person who has nothing to prove. They can appreciate another person's success without becoming jealous. They can admit someone knows more without becoming insecure. They can enter conversations without constantly searching for ways to demonstrate their importance. This freedom comes when you stop building your worth around comparison. There will also be rooms where you genuinely do not belong, but not because you are inferior. Sometimes the environment is simply wrong for you. Perhaps the values are different. Perhaps disrespect is normal. Perhaps people compete in ways you do not want to participate in. Confidence does not mean forcing yourself to fit everywhere. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is recognize this place is not for me and leave without turning that mismatch into a judgment about your worth. You do not need acceptance from every room. That truth alone can remove enormous pressure. When you stop entering spaces as an applicant begging for approval, your entire energy changes. Instead of asking, "Do they want me here?" you begin observing, "Do I respect what happens here? Do I enjoy these people? Is this environment healthy for me? Do I want to invest my time here?" You are no longer only being evaluated. You are evaluating too. That does not make you arrogant. It makes you an active participant in your own life. One of the greatest shifts you can make is learning to be comfortable with silence. Nervous people often feel responsible for filling every gap in conversation. Silence makes them wonder whether something has gone wrong, so they begin talking simply to reduce discomfort. They overshare, explain too much, or say things they do not mean. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to think before answering. You are allowed to sit quietly without believing you need to entertain everyone. A person who is comfortable with silence often appears more grounded because they are not constantly trying to prove their presence. This is also useful during confrontation. If someone asks you a difficult question, you do not owe them an instant response simply because they expect one. Think. Let the silence exist. Then answer deliberately. That short pause can prevent you from giving away information, agreeing under pressure, or responding from emotion. Confidence is often less about what you add and more about what you stop doing. Stop over-explaining. Stop apologizing for harmless preferences. Stop laughing nervously after serious statements. Stop changing your answer the moment someone looks doubtful. Stop turning every disagreement into evidence that you were wrong. Stop asking people to confirm that your decisions are acceptable when those decisions belong to you. You can listen without surrendering. You can reconsider without collapsing. You can change your mind because better evidence appeared, not because someone's personality overwhelmed yours. Another powerful practice is learning to enter rooms with a purpose larger than yourself. When you focus entirely on how you look, how you sound, and whether people approve of you, self-consciousness grows. Shift your attention outward. If you are at a meeting, focus on contributing. If you are at a social gathering, become curious about people. If you are giving a presentation, focus on making the idea useful rather than making yourself impressive. Purpose reduces unnecessary self-monitoring. Instead of thinking, "How am I being perceived?" think, "What am I here to do?" This does not eliminate nervousness, but it gives nervous energy somewhere productive to go. You should also become comfortable entering places alone. Many people feel brave only when accompanied by someone familiar. The moment they must attend an event, appointment, meeting, restaurant, class, or gathering alone, they become painfully aware of themselves. Yet learning to move through the world without requiring a social shield is one of the most useful forms of confidence. Start small. Go somewhere unfamiliar. Ask for what you need. Sit comfortably. Observe without pretending to be busy simply because you feel exposed. Your nervous system eventually learns that being alone in public is not the same thing as being unsafe. Every experience like this expands your sense of freedom. The same principle applies to speaking with people you admire. Do not rehearse an entire performance because you think you need to impress them. Speak to them as a person. Ask genuine questions. Listen. If you have something meaningful to say, say it. The less desperate you are to make an impression, the more natural the interaction becomes. Remember that intimidation often survives because of imagination. From a distance, you create a story around people. Then, when you finally speak to them, you sometimes discover that they are far more ordinary than the version you created in your head. Stop giving imaginary power to people you have barely met. And when you encounter someone genuinely exceptional, Let their excellence inspire you rather than erase you. You can be impressed without becoming intimidated. There is also a deeper reason some people shrink. They were taught, directly or indirectly, that making themselves smaller keeps situations safe. Perhaps they learned not to challenge people, not to draw attention, not to speak too confidently, or not to upset anyone. Those habits may once have helped them avoid conflict, but adulthood can turn old protection into a prison. You are allowed to update the rules. You can become more visible without becoming disrespectful. You can express disagreement without becoming cruel. You can set boundaries without becoming difficult. You can speak with confidence without pretending to know everything. You no longer need to disappear to keep everyone comfortable. The world will occasionally test this new version of you. Someone may interrupt because they are accustomed to you staying silent. Someone may question a boundary because you did not have one before. Someone may react negatively when you stop over-explaining your decisions. Do not immediately assume that their discomfort means you are doing something wrong. Sometimes people resist your growth because your old behavior was more convenient for them. Stay respectful, but stay consistent. The more consistently you behave like someone who respects their own presence, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you will enter rooms that once made you nervous and notice something has changed. The people may be exactly the same. The room may be exactly the same. What changed is the position you gave yourself inside it. You no longer enter asking for permission to exist. You no longer assume confidence belongs to everyone except you. You no longer treat status as proof of superiority. You simply arrive as yourself, willing to listen, willing to learn, willing to speak, willing to be corrected, and unwilling to disappear. That is real presence. Walk into every room remembering that you do not need to become the most powerful person there. You only need to remain connected to your own power. You do not need everyone's attention. You need your own self-respect. You do not need to prove that you belong by dominating others. You belong because you have stopped abandoning yourself the moment stronger personalities appear. Let people be impressive. Let them be confident. Let them have experience, wealth, knowledge, influence, or status. None of those things require you to become smaller. Stand normally. Breathe normally. Speak clearly. Listen carefully. Think for yourself. If someone disagrees with you, remain present. If someone challenges you, remain thoughtful. If someone tries to intimidate you, remain grounded. If you make a mistake, recover. If you do not know, learn. If a room does not accept you, decide whether that room deserves you before deciding something must be wrong with you. This is how you stop shrinking, not by becoming louder than everyone, but by refusing to disappear. Not by proving you are superior, but by remembering you are equal in human worth. Not by eliminating nervousness, but by refusing to let nervousness decide how much of yourself you are allowed to show. Walk into the room, take your place, and remain there as yourself. Chapter 8. Face anyone. Handle anything. Fear nothing. There comes a point when confidence can no longer depend on who is standing in front of you, what problem has appeared, or how uncertain tomorrow feels. If your strength only works when life is calm, then it is not yet strength. Real strength must travel with you into uncomfortable rooms, difficult conversations, unexpected problems, rejection, pressure, conflict, uncertainty, and change. You need a mindset that does not collapse every time life stops cooperating. This final lesson is about becoming that kind of person. Face anyone does not mean fight everyone. It does not mean become aggressive, arrogant, or obsessed with proving yourself. It means stop mentally placing other people above you before they have done anything to deserve that position. Some people will have more money than you, more experience, more influence, more confidence, or more authority. Respect what is real, but do not turn those differences into reasons to feel inferior. A person's position may change how you should interact with them, but it does not make them more human than you. The moment you begin thinking, "I hope they approve of me," you place yourself in a weaker position. Replace that thought with something steadier. "I will behave in a way I respect." That change is powerful because you stop trying to control their opinion and start controlling your own conduct. You can be respectful without being submissive. You can listen without becoming intimidated. You can disagree without becoming hostile. You can stand beside someone impressive without disappearing in their presence. Some people intimidate others through confidence. Others use anger. Some use silence, status, criticism, sarcasm, wealth, intelligence, beauty, popularity, or authority. Different methods create the same effect when you allow them to convince you that your voice matters less. Learn to notice this reaction inside yourself. The moment you feel yourself shrinking, do not immediately change your behavior. Stay present. Slow down. Ask yourself what you would say or do if you were not afraid of their reaction. That question often reveals how much of your life has been shaped by intimidation. Perhaps you have agreed when you wanted to refuse. Perhaps you remained silent when someone crossed a line. Perhaps you accepted disrespect because you did not want conflict. Perhaps you abandoned ideas because someone more confident questioned them. Perhaps you changed your personality around people you wanted to impress. None of these habits need to continue. Your power begins returning when you realize that another person's reaction is not an emergency. They may dislike your answer, they may disagree, they may become disappointed, they may even leave. You are still allowed to remain yourself. This does not mean ignoring consequences. Wisdom considers consequences carefully. Fear, however, treats every negative reaction as catastrophe. There is a difference. Wisdom asks, "What is the best decision here?" Fear asks, "How can I make sure nobody becomes upset with me?" If you live by the second question, other people will eventually control your choices without ever needing to command you directly. Face anyone means you stop living that way. Now consider the second part. Handle anything. No human being can literally control every event that life may bring. The point is not to pretend that every problem will be easy. Some will hurt, some will surprise you, some will require time, patience, sacrifice, help, or major change. Handling anything means developing enough trust in yourself that difficulty no longer automatically becomes helplessness. Think about how many problems become terrifying simply because your mind says, "I do not know what I would do." That sentence creates fear because it makes uncertainty feel like incapability. Replace it with, "I will decide what to do when I know what I am dealing with." You do not need tomorrow's answer today. You need enough composure to meet tomorrow when it arrives. This mindset protects you from one of fear's favorite tricks, forcing you to solve imaginary futures. Fear asks, what happens if you lose your job, if the relationship ends, if someone rejects you, if the plan fails, if people laugh, if money becomes difficult, if you make the wrong choice, or if everything changes unexpectedly. Your mind then tries to construct perfect answers to situations that have not happened. Eventually, you become exhausted from solving problems that exist only in imagination. A stronger response is simpler. If something changes, I will respond to what is real. This does not sound dramatic, but it is one of the most powerful beliefs you can develop. It removes the impossible demand to control the future. Instead of guaranteeing safety, you build adaptability. Adaptability is stronger than prediction. You may not know exactly what is coming, but you can learn. You can ask for help. You can change your strategy. You can make another decision. You can recover from mistakes. You can rebuild after loss. You can leave situations that are harming you. You can begin again when a plan ends. Once you understand this, uncertainty stops looking like a wall and starts looking like a road you have not traveled yet. Handling anything also means refusing to turn every problem into a judgment about yourself. When something goes wrong, separate the event from your identity. A failed attempt means an attempt failed. It does not automatically mean you are a failure. Someone rejecting you means that person rejected something about the situation, relationship, opportunity, or fit. It does not mean your entire worth has been rejected. A mistake means something needs correction. It does not mean you are incapable. Fear becomes stronger when every event becomes personal. Strong people learn to examine problems without allowing problems to define them. Suppose you lose an opportunity you wanted badly. Panic says, everything is over. Doubt says, maybe I was never good enough. Escape says, I should stop trying because I cannot go through this again. Strength asks different questions. What happened? What can I learn? What can I improve? What remains possible? What is my next move? That is what handling anything looks like in practice. You do not need to feel wonderful while doing it. You only need to keep thinking. There will be moments when your emotions are intense. You may feel deeply disappointed, angry, embarrassed, or afraid. Emotional strength does not require pretending those feelings are absent. The danger begins when the emotion becomes the commander. You can feel anger without making a destructive decision. You can feel fear without retreating. You can feel sadness without deciding that your future is hopeless. Feelings are information, not instructions. That distinction gives you enormous freedom. If you can remain thoughtful while experiencing strong emotion, problems lose one of their greatest advantages over you. They can affect you, but they cannot immediately control you. This is why the ability to pause is so powerful. When something unexpected happens, resist the urge to react simply because the emotion is intense. Give yourself time whenever time is available. Take a walk before sending the message. Sleep before making the major decision. Gather information before assuming the worst. Let the initial emotional wave settle enough for your judgment to return. Not every situation allows long reflection, of course. Some moments require immediate action, but even then, the principle remains. Deal with what is real first. Do not add imaginary consequences while the real problem is demanding your attention. Handle what is in front of you. Then handle the next thing. This is how people survive situations that once seemed impossible. They do not swallow the entire problem in one moment. They break it into decisions. Fear wants you staring at the mountain. Strength asks where to place your next foot. The third part of this lesson is fear nothing. This phrase does not mean become reckless. Fear has a legitimate purpose. It can warn you about real danger and encourage preparation. The goal is not to destroy useful caution. The goal is to stop allowing fear to expand far beyond its proper role. Healthy fear says, pay attention. Unhealthy fear says, do not live. Healthy fear helps you prepare for a difficult conversation. Unhealthy fear prevents you from ever having it. Healthy fear encourages you to think before taking a risk. Unhealthy fear convinces you that every risk must be avoided. Healthy fear sees a dangerous situation and protects you. Unhealthy fear sees possible embarrassment and reacts as though your life is threatened. You must learn which voice you are listening to. Ask yourself, is there real danger here, or am I trying to avoid discomfort? That question can expose countless unnecessary fears. Public speaking may be uncomfortable, but discomfort is not danger. Introducing yourself may feel awkward, but awkwardness is not danger. Saying no to someone may create tension, but tension is not danger. Applying for something you might not get creates uncertainty, but uncertainty is not danger. Your nervous system may react strongly to all of these experiences, but you do not have to interpret every strong reaction as a command to retreat. This is where courage becomes practical. Do not wait to feel fearless before acting. If you always wait for fear to disappear, fear becomes the gatekeeper of your life. Instead, learn to move while fear is still present. You can enter the room while nervous. You can speak while your heart is beating faster. You can ask while uncertain. You can begin while doubting yourself. Action teaches the lesson that thinking alone cannot. Every time you face something and survive it, your mind updates its understanding of what you can handle. The room you feared becomes a room you have entered. The conversation you feared becomes a conversation you have survived. The rejection you feared becomes proof that rejection does not destroy you. The mistake you feared becomes another experience from which you recovered. This is how courage grows, not through one dramatic transformation, but through repeated evidence. There is another fear you must conquer if you want true freedom, the fear of losing people. Many people are fearless around problems, but become weak when relationships are involved. They tolerate disrespect because they fear loneliness. They abandon boundaries because they fear being left. They apologize for things they did not do because they cannot tolerate someone being angry with them. Their greatest fear is not conflict itself. It is the possibility that the other person might walk away. When you fear losing someone more than you fear losing yourself, your decisions become dangerous. You can love people deeply without making their presence the foundation of your identity. You can value relationships while knowing that your life continues if one changes or ends. That belief does not make you cold. It makes your love cleaner because it is no longer mixed with desperation. When you know you can survive someone's absence, you stop begging for their respect. You stop accepting behavior you know is wrong just to keep them close. You stop performing constantly to prevent abandonment. You allow people to choose, and you keep your dignity while they choose. Fear also attaches itself to failure. Many people would rather live with regret than risk being seen trying and not succeeding. They wait for the perfect moment, perfect skill level, perfect plan, and perfect confidence. Years pass while fear keeps changing the requirements. Failure becomes less frightening when you stop treating it as a final verdict. A failed attempt gives information. It may show that you need more preparation, a different method, better timing, stronger skills, another environment, or simply another attempt. Sometimes failure even redirects you towards something better suited to you. None of this means you should enjoy failing. It means you stop giving failure the power to permanently define your future. If failure teaches you, adjusts you, or redirects you, then it is not the end. Fear of judgment is another prison. You can spend your entire life trying to avoid criticism and still be criticized. You can be generous and someone will call you weak. You can be confident and someone will call you arrogant. You can be quiet and someone will call you insecure. You can work hard and someone will say you are obsessed. You can relax and someone will say you are lazy. There is no version of your life that receives universal approval. Once you understand that, the question becomes obvious. Why sacrifice your entire identity for an impossible goal? You should care about useful feedback. You should listen when trustworthy people point out something you genuinely need to improve. But criticism and truth are not the same thing. Someone's opinion deserves consideration, not automatic obedience. Learn to ask, is there something valuable here? If yes, use it. If no, release it. That single habit will protect you from both arrogance and insecurity. You will not reject every criticism defensively, and you will not absorb every criticism blindly. Fear nothing also means stop fearing your own mistakes. Many people are harsh with themselves because they believe self-attack prevents future failure. It usually does the opposite. When every mistake becomes an emotional beating, you become afraid to experiment, decide, speak, and grow. You need accountability, but accountability and cruelty are different. When you make a mistake, examine it clearly. What did you miss? What should change? What can be repaired? Then move. You do not become stronger by spending months humiliating yourself over one bad decision. Strength requires learning without remaining emotionally chained to the lesson forever. The past is another form of intimidation. People often fear life because something painful happened before. One betrayal creates fear of trust. One failure creates fear of trying again. One embarrassing experience creates fear of similar situations. The mind says, remember what happened last time, as if the future has already agreed to repeat the past. Remembering is useful. Becoming imprisoned by memory is not. Use the past as information, not prophecy. You may recognize warning signs more quickly now. You may prepare better. You may set stronger boundaries. You may move more carefully. But do not assume that because something hurt you once, every similar opportunity contains the same ending. You are not the same person you were then either. Experience has changed you. What once surprised you may now be something you can recognize earlier. What once broke your confidence may now become something you process differently. Do not keep measuring your future abilities using an older version of yourself. As you grow, another shift happens. You stop needing life to become easier before you feel strong. You stop saying, once this problem disappears, then I will be okay. There will always be another uncertainty, another difficult person, another decision, another challenge. If peace depends on the absence of difficulty, peace will always remain temporary. Build a different kind of peace, the kind that comes from knowing you can deal with life even when life is unfinished. You do not need every answer. You need self-trust. You do not need everyone's approval. You need self-respect. You do not need certainty. You need adaptability. You do not need a world without pressure. You need a mind that remembers how to think under pressure. This is what the entire journey has been preparing you for. You stopped making other people larger than you. You learned to face pressure without giving away your power. You trained yourself to create calm before reacting. You stopped letting imagined futures control the present. You began treating fear as a feeling instead of an authority. You learned to confront problems instead of escaping them. You learned to enter rooms without becoming smaller. Now all of those lessons come together. Face anyone. When a powerful personality enters your space, remember your equality. Do not become aggressive. Do not become submissive. Stay grounded. Listen, think, speak when necessary. Set boundaries when necessary. Leave when necessary. Their confidence does not require your insecurity. Handle anything. When life changes unexpectedly, do not collapse into prediction. Identify the facts. Find what you can control. Make one useful decision, then make another. Ask for help when needed. Adapt when needed. Rest when needed. Begin again when needed. A difficult situation is not the same thing as a defeated person. Fear nothing. Respect real danger, but stop worshipping imagined disaster. Refuse to let embarrassment, rejection, uncertainty, criticism, failure, loneliness, or someone else's opinion become walls around your life. You will still feel fear sometimes. That is not failure. The victory is that fear no longer has the final decision. Imagine what becomes possible when you live this way. You stop avoiding people because their personality is strong. You stop avoiding opportunities because the outcome is uncertain. You stop staying in the wrong situations because change frightens you. You stop over-explaining your choices because someone might disagree. You stop wasting years preparing for disasters that never arrive. Your life becomes larger because your fear becomes smaller. And perhaps the deepest freedom is this. You stop asking life to promise that nothing painful will ever happen. No such promise exists. People may disappoint you. Plans may fail. Doors may close. Circumstances may change. You may occasionally choose badly. You may have to begin again. But none of those possibilities require you to live frightened today. The goal was never to build a life where nothing can happen to you. The goal was to build a person who does not disappear when something happens. That person thinks instead of panicking, adapts instead of surrendering, learns instead of collapsing, walks away when dignity requires it, stays when courage requires it, speaks when silence would betray them, remains silent when reacting would make things worse. That is power, not controlling people, not dominating rooms, not winning every argument, not avoiding every mistake. Power is being able to remain yourself when pressure is trying to turn you into someone smaller. So when you face the next difficult person, do not ask whether they are intimidating. Ask whether you are willing to intimidate yourself on their behalf. When the next problem appears, do not immediately ask whether it will become worse. Ask what you can do now. When fear speaks, do not spend hours begging it to become quiet. Hear it, examine it, and choose your direction anyway. There is no need to declare yourself fearless to the world. Let your behavior prove it. Let people see that you can be challenged without becoming chaotic. Let problems discover that you do not immediately surrender. Let uncertainty arrive and find you still moving. Let rejection come and find your dignity intact. Let failure happen and find you learning. Let the past call your name and find you walking forward. And when life places something unfamiliar in front of you, remember this. You have already survived moments you once thought you could not handle. You have already adapted to changes you did not ask for. You have already learned things you once did not know. You have already walked through situations that once looked enormous from a distance. Do not underestimate the person those experiences have created. You are not required to know exactly how every future challenge will unfold. You are required only to meet it without abandoning yourself. Stand where you are. See reality clearly. Trust your ability to respond, then move. Face anyone without becoming smaller. Handle anything without losing your mind. Fear nothing enough to stop living. And whatever waits beyond the next door, walk toward it as someone who finally understands that courage is not a life without fear. It is a life no longer controlled by it. You do not need life to become easier. You need to become harder to intimidate. Let people be difficult. Let problems arrive. Let the future stay uncertain. Your power begins when none of those things can decide who you become. From this moment forward, remember 3 things. Face anyone. Handle anything. Fear nothing. And when life tests you again, do not ask, "Why me?" Stand up and say, "Try me."